It's 4 o'clock on Tuesday, and you know what that means, don't you? It's time for another exciting episode of Taxi's Quarantini Happy Hour. And today we're going to talk about mixing with intent. I can't wait to see what you guys have to say about that. Hello, everybody. Let me go check the chat room, see who's on board today. We've got Jesse J. Peck, Ian Shortle, Ghost of Young Michael, Simon Burnham, John Pearson, Terrell Beckless, Riney Bear, Peter Rayhill, Mr. K. Esdale, John Pearson, Dan Weber, Martin Gravel, Andre Stepanian, Nancy Kalel, Alex Dillon, Dean Turner, Lane Bell and Shrek. Hello, everybody. Hope you guys are doing well. I just realized the birds of paradise are now dead birds of paradise. I forgot to change out the flowers. Yay, show and mixing. It'll be great. Well, I don't know how much... actually, you know what? I brought down... Oh, here it is. I brought down a notepad in case I wanted to write any notes down. I forgot to put it in my space. So yeah, I want to talk about mixing, and funny enough, Shirelli just called me Rob Shirelli, who is a world-famous multi-Grammy, 100 gold and platinum records mixer himself. Hang on, I think I need a sip. Today, we're having blue Red Bull stuff. Excuse me, now I'll have to have a Red Bull burp. Hello, Darren Moss. Good to see you back in the room, buddy. Haven't seen you in a while. Anyway, yeah, Shirelli just called me a few minutes ago. We were chatting, and all of a sudden I went, wow, it's like 5 minutes to 4. So I had to finish my setup, get ready for the big show. I was telling him that I've been playing with Logic and really just loving the hell out of it. And he said, yeah, it's a whole different world, isn't it? It's amazing all the stuff you can do. Man, I can't wait to finish up the show, finish dinner tonight, call him back and talk more about that. He actually uses Pro Tools, but same thing more or less. Peter's going to be a first-time grandpa. Congratulations. Andre says, I checked out Rob's work on albums. Holy smokes. Yeah. His credits are unbelievable. His work is unbelievable. Sometimes, on rare occasions, we're very close friends. And as you guys know, we live 4 or 5 houses away from each other. We're very close. We've known each other for more than 30 years. Our wives are close. Our kids know each other really well. We spend New Year's Eve and 4th of July when it's not COVID time with them. And they're family to us. As close as he and I are, it's like he never calls me up and goes, man, check out this mix I just did. Anyway, so I was telling him many years ago, I think I've mentioned this to you guys before, but many years ago, probably back in the early 2000s, I had an assistant named Naveen. Very bright, very hardworking young man. One day I was out at a meeting and he called me and he goes, I'm on eBay and there's a 2-inch 16-track master recording, original master of the Eagles song, Take It Easy. Do you want to bid on it? And I said, there's no way that is real. There's no way that the record company wouldn't have that in a vault somewhere in their possession. And I said, you know what? I'll take a chance. I can afford to just totally blow $500. I must have been having a really good month or something. I said, yeah, don't bid any more than $500 for it. And he ended up getting it for $70. Like a month later, this very heavy box shows up at the taxi office, and I open it up, and in the box is a reel of 2-inch tape from Olympic Studios in London. And sure enough, it says Master, Take It Easy. It had one other song, I can't remember. It wasn't one of their better known songs. So, like a month or two or three later, I gave it to another close friend of mine who used to be my assistant engineer at some point in my life back in the Florida period. And he was working at Capitol Records in the studio part of, I think he was in audio quality control or something like that. Anyway, he baked the 2-inch for me and then transferred it over to digital files. And for years, I had it dumped into GarageBand on one of my laptops. Well, the other day, I said, oh, I'll bet you I can dump that into Logic and mix it. And so I did. I dumped it into Logic, and lo and behold, it transferred over beautifully. It was recorded by Glenn Johns, who, here, let's see what else Glenn Johns did. Very famous engineer producer that I believe might have even done Led Zeppelin. English musician, recording engineer, producer. He's 78 years old. Wow. Okay, let's see. Rolling Stones, The Who, The Small Faces, The Faces, Johnny Halliday, Led Zeppelin, The Beatles, The Eagles, Fairport Convention, Eric Clapton, The Clash. So yeah, Glenn's worked with some good people. At some point in my career at Criteria, I got to work with him for like 2 days on something. I can't remember what it was. Anyway, I do remember watching the History of the Eagles Part 1, was that what it's called, on TV a couple of years ago, and they talked about their relationship with him. First of all, they were a Southern California country rock band, and when they signed their record deal, he flew them over to London and was working with them over there, and much to the Eagles' consternation, he wanted them to be like a hard rock band, and they wanted to be a country rock band, and they did not get along in the studio. Apparently, he was very demanding, and they were belligerent, kind of Glenn, take that. Anyway, so, yep, $70. It was found in a dumpster, by the way. The reel of tape, the reel of 2-inch 16-track tape with the Eagles, with a master of Take It Easy, was found in a dumpster behind Olympic Studios. And I know exactly how that happens. Studios actually have a responsibility to send a letter a certain number of days after the sessions are done. We've got these masters. Here's a list. Usually, song titles and dates, all that stuff. And they give the record label some period of time to give them an address to ship it to. And if they don't respond, then you have to send a second letter. There's a whole legal protocol that you have to follow because it's intellectual property. But after some period of time, if the label doesn't respond, they can throw them out. Well, obviously, whatever period. So I'm guessing that Take It Easy was probably done in 72-ish? So, that thing sat there for 50 years or something. So they threw it out. Somebody who probably didn't know who the Eagles were, was probably some 18-year-old, assistant engineer, tossed it, and it was found in a dumpster, and now it's sitting in my office. Anyway, so I threw it into Logic, and I was familiar with it already. As it turns out, it is a master. It's not the master. They put background vocals on it. They put the lead guitar parts on it. They completed it, and for whatever reason, they decided not to go with it, and the version that's actually on the record is ever so slightly faster. The guitar fills and the lead are very similar, but not the same, and the lead vocal melody in places is a little different. So I've got this version, and I've got to say it's kind of cool to hear them count it off, and you can hear, grunts and stuff. If you listen carefully, the most amazing thing is that, do you guys know what audio print through is on tape? And this is why tapes are always stored tails out versus heads out. The reason is print through is there's enough flux on the magnetic tape, making the particles of oxide stand up. I feel a sneeze coming on. I put a little powder on my shiny nose, and now I'm paying the price for that. Anyway, so they wound this thing tails out, clearly, and at the very end of the whole thing, in the acoustic guitar and the lead vocal track, you can hear print through of the song Witchy Woman right after Take It Easy ends. I don't know, 5 seconds later you hear "Ooh, Witchy Woman" coming through very, very faintly, but it was print through. Anyway, so now that I've got the song on Logic and I've been listening to it much more carefully, let's say the engineering on it was not that great. Probably not as great as subsequent records that were done with Bill Szymczyk. Now, obviously, Glenn Johns has a great history and was very revered is a great engineer and a great producer. He's worked on a bunch of great records, as we just heard. But you can hear a lot of the control room bleeding through the walls into mics like acoustic guitar mics, into vocal mics, into the background vocal mics. You can hear everything that they must have been monitoring on the big speakers in the control room, and it's coming through the wall and leaking into the stuff. So many of the tracks, like the lead vocal, actually, I believe, was cut when they cut the rhythm track. So you've got like the bass amp bleeding into the acoustic guitar. You've got anything that was going on in the room kind of bleeding into the lead vocal mic. And then when they did the background vocals, there's a lot of bleed going on as well. So it makes it really hard when you are trying to get the drum sound. The drums, by the way, were pre-mixed down to just drums left and right, and that included the snare drum, the kick drum, the tom-toms, the cymbals. It's all just on 2 tracks. So it was kind of a bummer because I really wanted to improve the drum sound, and I could make the snare better, or I could make the kick drum better. And if I put a certain kind of reverb on the drums, then I got a lot of hi-hat in the reverb, which just made it sizzly and just, yeah, they did Witchy Woman. Anyway, it was problematic. So as I'm listening to all this stuff, I thought, what do I intend to do? And that's the point of what I want to talk about today. It took me 13 minutes to get to that point. So I decided that I was going to mix it how Bill Szymczyk would have mixed it had he worked on that record. Szymczyk's sound, compared to the record that had, what was the song? Take It Easy. Take It Easy was obviously great. It was a hit song, and the record did sound great. The record sounded great. But Szymczyk's records with the Eagles, for my money, sounded better. His acoustic guitars just had that incredible kind of eagle-y silkiness to them. The background vocals had this beautiful air, kind of this glossy air to them. So I decided that I was going to take Glenn Johns' recording and mix it as if Bill Szymczyk were mixing it. And about 3 hours later, it sounded like Bill Szymczyk had mixed it. I mean, I shouldn't pat myself on the back so hard that I break my arm, doing it. But I've got to say, any of my old Criteria friends or any Bill Szymczyk aficionados would have listened to it and go, wow, that sounds like a Szymczyk mix. Obviously, I studied a lot of Eagle records and know, like his style. And I got it so incredibly close. And then I made the fatal mistake of trying to make it even better, and I just destroyed what I had, like instrument by instrument. And I didn't bother to bounce a version. Otherwise, I would play it for you in the show. We would probably, the show would probably get blocked by YouTube later. But I figured we'd do it for the live show. Anyway, um, so it got me thinking about mixing by intent, and I'm wondering. I know that you guys have various things that you mix, whether it's instrumental tracks, instrumental cues, or whether you're doing songs. But do you start with intent? And I've got to say, it made me feel really good because it's been like 30, I don't know, it's probably 27 years before I was in a studio sitting in the engineer's chair. I produced 3 songs for an artist, engineered and produced 3 songs for an artist whose record never came out. Maybe it's because of me, I don't know. On DreamWorks, I want to say in the mid 90s. So that's the last time I did anything in a pro studio, in a pro capacity. But it was really rewarding to have a plan. This is what I want it to sound like and be able to dial that in, especially working in Logic, where I was doing all this new stuff, working with all this new stuff. And I'm just still so tickled pink that I've been able to, it's like, here's what I'd like the electric guitar to sound like. And yeah, I should probably use an LA3 on that and dial it in. Yep, that's exactly the sound I'm looking for. So do you guys have that experience? Do you start out when you're mixing something? Do you have like a vision? Like an artist, when an artist paints a painting, for the most part, they know what they want it to look like. They know if they want it to look, photographic looking, or they know if they want to be abstract. They know if they want to be like super bright colors, or they want it to look, like totally realistic. Do you have that intent when you sit down to mix something? Can you hear in your mind's eye or your mind's ear what you want it to sound like? And are you able to dial that in to the point where you go, wow, that's exactly what I envisioned, or pretty close to it? It might be an issue, Peter. The mix as it was doesn't exist. I'm sure I can recreate it. But yeah, I realized when I worked in the studio and we had a budget and a drop dead date for making completing the record, getting it to the label so that they could release it when they needed to get it out the door. And anytime, I always tried to get stuff delivered to the label at least 2 weeks before the deadline, because you knew that the A&R weasels would come back with a bunch of notes. Well, we'd like to hear the vocal louder on this, or drop the electric guitar on that. So having a deadline and a budget made me personally, I don't know if this happens to everybody who works in pro studios, but it made me stick to, like, this mix is as good as it needs to be, and I got to move on to the next thing. Well, I don't have that pressure working, sitting here at home. And again, I was mixing I'm looking at them over there on my Bose noise canceling headphones, which definitely have a much bigger bottom than anything real. So I've got to find something else to mix on. I tried mixing on some Audio Technica headphones. It was okay. It didn't suck, but not great. I don't have a room. I don't want to move all this stuff that's around here in my office upstairs to one of the empty bedrooms, and then have to bring it back down for taxi TV and such. So, and I know my wife would kill me if I set up my, I think I've got like some 6-inch two-way monitors that some company gave me many years ago. Yeah, bottom line is I'm thinking about buying better headphones to mix on and getting something like, what's that new thing that Waves has, the NX Studio, that sounds like a great sounding control room, Ocean Way Nashville, which is a great control room, one of the best in the country, I think. I don't know. Anyway, do you guys do that? I always, Rosanna says, I always have a vision of how I want a song to come out. and 90% of it doesn't come out that way. I'm talking about a mix, though. I mean, it's good that you have a vision for a song, but what about a mix? John Pearson says he tries and gets somewhat close, but I still send my vocal stuff out to be final mixed and mastered. Uh, Yeah, Joe Walsh was with James Gang before he was with the Eagles. It's how he ended up in the Eagles. Is Bill Szymczyk produced the James Gang, and then he produced Joe Walsh's solo records. And because he worked with Joe and worked with the Eagles, Joe got to know the Eagles because they shared the same producer, and I believe that's how he ended up being asked to join the Eagles. Ooh, Kip Johnson. I mix everything on Wave's Ocean Way Nashville plugin. Do you like it? I've heard mostly good stuff. They also have I think the Abbey Road version of it. I don't know if I want to go backwards in time and mix in Abbey Road, although that would be fun. But I think I'd rather have a modern control room, and I happen to know that one because I was in there once for either a Faith Hill mix, somebody, I don't know. I was in Nashville and I got invited to go spend like 4 hours in that control room when they were working on a mix for somebody famous. Um, Brad Gray's got the Abbey Road version. I almost never use it. Interesting. So Kip, do you like the Ocean Wave version? The Eagles didn't pick Steven Still because of his bad teeth. I got to tell you, having worked extensively with him, and I have tremendous respect for Steven Stills. He's an incredible artist, an incredible guitar player, incredible songwriter, an incredible vocalist. His personality would not have worked in a band that had Don Henley and Glenn Frey heading up the band. It would have been a war the first week. Um, um, so spiritual, anybody, do you guys like the NX stuff? Kip Johnson lovers it. I think he meant loves it. I mean, it's so cheap. I think I'm just going to get it. I just have to get some other headphones because the Audio Technica phones, we purposely bought phones that sounded pretty darn good, but not great because we didn't want them to sound overly good for the screeners, kind of like the NS10 theory. Um, Use it with the DT. Are those buyers? The DTs? I love Buyer. The Buyer headphones, we had a criteria I loved, and people still use them. They're the white ones. I forget the number. Um, Ooh, you've got the head tracker too. How do you feel about the head tracker? Yeah, I mean, $35, even if you hate it, oh well, it's not like it's going to break the bank unless you've been unfortunately unemployed or something because of COVID. But I believe that the NX is strictly for headphones. The whole point is it tries to recreate that control room with headphones, I believe. Kip usually turns the head tracker off and centers the head. Yeah, you measure your head, right? Because it operates binaurally, which means it hears stuff like your head hears stuff. I used to actually have a binaural pair of stereo microphones back in like 1977. I remember we called it Herman, and it was a foam head that was that replicated the density of a human head, and it had ears, and it had a face on it. It was like a mannequin head, and it had microphones built into the ears, and people were always amazed. Nobody else had one. I don't know why, but I found it somewhere for like $200. It was pretty reasonable. I can't remember who made it. And I put that thing on a big old tall boom, like one of those, like the kind they used on Frank Sinatra's microphone, like the biggest mic stand you've ever seen. And I would put it at the opposite end of the room with Herman looking out at the drum kit from like 35 feet away. And I got to say, when I opened Herman up with a pair of stereo faders, sounded pretty darn good if I wanted a lot of room, which most people didn't back in the mid 70s. You're going to get the video that I saw. What was the title and producer? Which video are you talking about? Refresh my memory, Rick White. Right. They do make a point of telling you that the NX should be the last thing in your master on your master bus. That it shouldn't come before, like, master EQ or compression. Oh, Dave Gibson, that video? If you go to taxi.com and look on the main nav bar at the top of the page, somewhere up there you'll see news or newsletter in the top navigation, and go down to Taxi's newsletter and open that, and the Dave Gibson video is in there. I mean, it literally is so dated that it's hysterical, but the way he uses graphics to show, kind of the oral landscape that I'm a big fan of, I think is great. I think a lot of people that are working isolated in home studios don't have the luxury of collaborating with a lot of other engineers, any sort of pro level. There are a lot of people on Gear Sluts that talk a good game, but I look at what they're writing and go, they don't really know. They know the buzzwords, they know the lingo, but they don't really know. I'm sure there's some on there that know a lot. It's hard to sort them out. You're right. I know I look frozen when I'm looking at the chat. But I want to see what you guys are saying. I have made another discovery now that I'm in plug-in land, and that is that back in the day, I never liked, like I had a Aphex oral exciter for about 6 months and got rid of it. Didn't like it. Just didn't like it. And then I had a BBE Sonic Maximizer, I believe it was called, and liked that a little better, but still didn't like it all that much. I don't think I ever used either of them on a mix that went to vinyl. But when I was doing the Eagle mix the other day, I felt that it lacked a little bit of that high-end air and sheen that Bill Szymczyk got on his records. He always had great sounding bottom end. The kick and the bass relationship were always wonderful. And I felt like I had that going on with my mix. And then I put it away for a few hours. I think I went back to it. I worked on it Saturday and then either went back late Saturday night, like after midnight, or maybe on Sunday morning, listened to it and went, it's just missing that silky thing, that indescribably beautiful silky sheen that when combined with compression on the mix bus, good compression, the right compression on the mix bus, I was looking for that sheen. I had my reverb dialed in, had my balance dialed in, had the lead vocal totally dialed in. I was really happy with it, although Glenn Frey gets a little pitchy in places, and I didn't even attempt to tune the vocal at all. Anyway, I tried the, I don't even know, you guys who are Logic fans or Logic users will know, but they've got something like, I don't know, an Exciter plugin. It doesn't have a brand name on it. It's just called like an Exciter or something. And I figured, what the hell? I'm going to try it. So I did, and I set it at like 18% saturation, I believe. And I was thrilled with the result. I couldn't believe how good it sounded. Pitchy Woman, there you go. Mag Audio EQ4. Not familiar with that one. I'm using, I've got a MacBook Pro with 32 gigs of RAM and one or two here. I can tell you. Let me look. Okay, I have a MacBook Pro, a 2019 16-inch MacBook Pro that I bought last October, I believe, or September. I'm running Catalina. I'm not brave enough to upgrade to whatever the latest, greatest is. So I'm running version 10.15.7, 2.3 gigahertz, 9-core or 8-core Intel i9, 32 gigs of RAM. And upgrade on the video stuff, which makes it better for doing this, for doing Taxi TV. I'm barely using, because the video is so capable, like right now I'm using 12% of my CPU, whereas when I had my old laptop that didn't have an upgraded video card, I'd be like 65 or greater and percent of my CPU being used just to do Taxi TV, and it stressed it out. Big Sur is the new one. Yeah, I'm not brave enough to go to Big Sur. Oh, Mark Real, you're reading Making Rumors by my friend Ken Calais. Yeah, I love Ken. Did I ever tell you guys that shortly after COVID kicked in, one day my phone rang and it was Ken? He said, I'm just calling to see how you're doing, man. Just making sure you're good. I thought that was very sweet. He and I can talk endlessly. We'll rehash the same thing over and over and over, but we love the same things as far as audio goes. Listing question from Brad Gray. For listings that are looking for reimagined covers, are there any bands that we should stay away from? In case of, stay away from Beatles. At least it used to be absolutely verboten, but I've heard covers of Beatles stuff. Eagles I would stay away from. Neil Young is another one. I don't know who else, but I remember that those were an issue. Yeah, absolutely. No rush to upgrade. Let the others find the bugs. Yeah, I always worried that if I upgrade that my broadcasting software won't work with it. I'm pretty sure Logic is up to date, but... You saw a girl using Herman on YouTube. You're talking about Herman the binaural head. Was it a gray head? Oh, there's so many jokes there. But Michael looks like he has a halo. Yes, I do. Oh, man. Noveltech vocal enhancer. Yeah, I was just so surprised that the stock thing in Logic sounded way better than I think I had like a first or second generation Aphex Oral Exciter, way early on that. And the BBE that I had was many years after that. Still, it sounded okay, but I wasn't brave enough to use it. Um, Yeah, I think I'm running the most current version of Logic. I think I'm all updated on that, but good to know that I can use it with Big Sur. If you want some advice, this is just kind of an anecdotal thing that I've noticed regarding doing reimagined covers. Is take fast songs that are harder edged. Lyrics are important. How can I say this? Lyrics about things that are mysterious seem to end up in a lot of film trailers, and oftentimes they're songs that used to be fast and harder edged, done in a slower, dreamier, trippier, kind of dangerous sounding way, you know? Just an anecdotal thing. See you, Martin Weeks. What do you mean you gotta go? You just got here. uh, Let me see what my logic is. Ew, I've got to go into. Oh, 10.5.1. I thought I just updated it recently. Oh, well. I guess I am wrong about that. Let me go back and see what Andre said. 10.6.1. Wow. Well, there you go. Guess what I'll be doing after the big show today? While I'm cooking dinner, I will be updating. I don't think Doors would be a problem to do covers of. Yeah, think about, you know what? Go. I'm sure if you Google movie trailers with song covers, I don't know that I would type in Reimagine. That may make Google blow up. But just movie trailers with song covers in them or something like that. And watch a bunch of them. Watch like 20 of them. And that will be so instructive. You'll learn so much. Ooh, it's Logic Pro. No more X. No, they took the X out of it. Probably dropped it off at a rave, and a bunch of 20-year-olds are taking the X. Yes, please hit the like button, everybody. And also, I really, really, really need you to go into the comments after the show is posted online and give me some ideas for new shows. Give me ideas for things that we can talk about for a while, not just a simple question like, what do you like better, exclusive or non-exclusive? Give me something that's got some meat to it. Greg Carosa's in the house. Yo, Greg. Oh, speaking of Shirelli, he may be my guest on this coming Monday's Taxi TV. As we were hanging up, he said, yeah, shoot me an email. I'll check it on my calendar. Haven't had Rob on the show for a while. Probably, since the road rally, I think. So let's see, November, December, January, 3 months. There you go. We need him back. What's everybody's go-to mic in their home studio? Let's talk about sample rates. That'll kill at least an hour. I am not the right guy for that subject by any stretch of the imagination. Remember, I just recently got Logic. I am just creeping over the finish line into the digital realm. Serious Face Rob or Goofy Rob? Hopefully we can get Goofy Rob. He's always goofy. When he comes over to the office and we're sitting shoulder to shoulder to do a show, he tends to be goofier. Maybe it's when, when he sees himself on screen, maybe doing it from his house, maybe he gets more serious. I don't know. An NT5. That's a Rode, right? Rode NT5. Ooh, Townsend Labs modeling mic. I've been I really, really want to get a control surface. I'm sorry, but I was not ever destined to mix with a mouse or a trackpad. I know Shirelli uses, Bluebird Blue. That's a sexy mic. Shirelli uses a big trackball. The thing is like the size of a tennis ball, and he's had that thing forever. He loves it. I'll show you what my go-to mic is. My go-to mic that I haven't recorded with yet. Remember, so far I've done no recording and no editing in Logic. There it is. This is on loan from Rob. This is a Gauge ECM 87 that he gave me for the road rally, and I said, I'm going to drop it off tonight. He said, nah, just keep it. I said, Rob, you told me you were getting low on him, so he no longer owns the company. He said, just keep it. Try using login remote on an iPad. I don't have an iPad. I could never bring myself to buy an iPad. I just didn't see if, okay, maybe I'd use it on an airplane, but I end up writing a lot of stuff or I need to type a lot. And the keyboards that I tried in the Apple Store for the iPad, I didn't really love them. I guess you get used to them. Carosa uses the ECM 87. It's a great microphone. Ray Hill's got one, $99, man. That was the deal of the century. It sounds really, really good, and it's a microphone that sounds good on so many things. Yeah, you should see the lead guitar track on the mix that I was doing of Take It Easy. There are parts, and they're basically, I forget, was it Bernie Ledden? No, Don Felder, I believe, playing those parts. Who was it on the original Eagles record? Who played lead guitar on the Eagles song Take It Easy? Bernie Ledden.
According to Wikipedia.
Okay, so he was just, kind of feeling his way through the song. And then when the solo came, he played most of the parts that ended up on the record version of the solo, but he played them in different places, not in the same order or succession that made it to the record. Anyway, because he's doing all these little fills and stuff, I really need to go through and automate, the mutes, when it's in, when it's out, because a lot of stuff he played doesn't work with the lead vocal. It just walks all over it. Question from Mark Reel: is Easy Song licensing a reputable and trustworthy way to get the rights to record a song? Supposedly they research publishers for permission to record songs for a fee per... You know what? For the purpose of submitting reimagined songs, if the song has been out in the world, you can do as many versions of it as you want. It's the end user that has to license it, or it's the library that licenses the composition. You own the master. You and the library would become partners in the master, and you would get paid for the master, but not for the composition. So you don't have to license it. Anyway, going back to like a mixing surface or a control surface. I forget what you got. You recommended something I was already looking at. It was like $1,000, kind of pricey. And then I don't know. I actually really like the Raven, the Steven Slate Raven. Although it got beat up pretty badly when it first came out, people didn't love it. But apparently, many, if not all, the issues that were the problem issues back then have now been taken care of. So I like it, the fact that I could have two screens, one with the regions that I could be editing on, another one with the mixer set up. I think it's, let's say, a 27-inch monitor. You get a couple of them. If you want to really go for it, you can buy the Raven desk that they both fit in, and they sit on, I don't know what you call the angle, but they're on a little bit of an incline like that, facing you. The Mackie MCU, wow, Pro is freaking awesome. And then Riney says it's freaking awesome. What's freaking awesome, Riney? Are you agreeing with Mark about the Mackie MCU Pro? Oh, Riney uses the Raven. Okay, cool. Yeah, it just looks like something I'd be comfortable with, being a console guy my whole life. I could reach out and touch stuff on the console without even thinking about where my hand was going. And obviously, I don't have nearly as many hours on Logic so far. But I'd like to be able to just reach out and go bap, and I tend to hit buttons really hard, so I hope I don't break the screen. But yeah, I want to be able to go bap on a mute and, group, boom, done. Trying to ride the lead guitar on Take It Easy with a mouse was a disaster. And when I looked at the automation line or stripe or whatever you call it, it's like a million little up and down dots, because I will do that. If I'm mixing a real record on a real console in a real studio, my finger rests on the fader the whole time, and I'm doing these minute little moves, because after you go through that guitar part 3, 4, 5, or 10 times, you intuitively know where you have to ride it, and generally speaking, I would be able to take apart like a lead guitar and ride it from top to bottom, front to back on the mix, and rarely have to go back and fix a little section. Obviously, I can do that a lot easier now in Logic, but I would be very excited to have faders. Now, faders on a touch screen, I don't know, but people are, oops, I forgot to shut my email off. People pretty much rave about the Raven now. There's a little, not pun intended, but it came out that way. Where did it go? There it is. Okay, bye-bye to that. And bye-bye to that. And there we go. Yeah, whatever I get, I'm probably going to buy it from Sweetwater. Those guys get such great reviews on their customer service. Talk about how music credits within movie credits, things such as appears courtesy of. Honestly, I probably have looked at more music credits, than any other living human being. I'm obsessed with them, to the point of driving those around me a little crazy when I get up off the couch with the remote in hand and walk over and stand in front of my 55-inch TV going, pause, looking on the credit, next, pause. I don't know what to tell you. I don't think that there's any set precedent for it, quite frankly. Back in the day, especially on major motion pictures, everything was courtesy of like Warner Brothers Special Products, because that's where they licensed music from back in the day. And you know, I mean, the songwriter's names are usually on there, the artist's name is on there, and usually courtesy of means they, you know, licensed it from a particular company. But I don't think there's an actual format to it. I think that people just copy what others have done and maybe change it up a little bit if they feel like it. Show topic: music lawyer explaining the legalities of what's really going on between Taylor Swift and Scooter Braun. I don't know how that's going to help you guys. If you get to the point where you're as successful as Taylor Swift and you want those answers, then I'll do a show about it. But I try to make stuff that I do, even on the Quarantinis, things that will help you guys. Except today you're helping me. Yeah, Michael Lloyd and Shirelli will come almost anytime I want them to be on the show. They're up for it. Shirelli's schedule is insanely busy. Um, Things to avoid. I think I've done a lot of episodes about that. Um, yeah, if music gets used in a movie via a library, do they show your name? Most of the time. I don't know what more I can talk about with Rob, frankly. I just like hanging out with him. Uh, we've talked about this stuff for so many years now. I think I've been doing taxi TVs for like 12 years. He's definitely one of my more frequently visited guests. When will Robin be back on the show? When did I have her on last? Didn't I have her? Haven't I had her on once since the road rally? I believe. Jim Stamper does the same thing on movie credits. I love credits. Sweetwater would make a great road rally sponsor. Here is the problem, not with Sweetwater in particular, but with big retailers like that. In the past, when I've had some, like West LA Music was a sponsor for many years. It was a locally owned, very, very popular store where basically every rock star in the world shops or shopped. Um, the problem is the retailers have deals with the companies whose products they sell. So they would pay me, let's say West LA, I believe, paid like $5,000 a year to sponsor the Road Rally. And then they would reach out to all the manufacturers whose products they sold, and they would say, hey, you want a half a table at the Road Rally? Give me $800. And then they'd reach out to another sponsor or another manufacturer and say, hey, you want half a table at the Road Rally? Give me $800. So they were reselling the real estate within the Road Rally. Excuse me. And it got harder and harder for me to sell sponsorships because I'd reach out to these companies and say, hey, would you like to sponsor the Road Rally? We've got a perfect audience for you. And they would say, oh, I actually had one sponsor that dropped out. They were like a $3,500 sponsor, and they dropped out because they ended up buying half a table from West LA Music. So if I go to somebody like Sweetwater, that's going to be the case. And one year I talked to Guitar Center, and basically they wanted to write me one check, for like $20,000, but they wanted total control over all the sponsorships unless I knew little companies, like Chord Dice or something that they just weren't interested in. Then I was allowed to go bring those guys in as sponsors. So I would love to have Sweetwater. as a sponsor, but it would have to be a very structured agreement whereby I was able to bring in, at least grandfather in sponsors that I've had in the past. But even the sponsors that I would have grandfathered in from past years, when they go, oh, look at that, Sweetwater's a sponsor. I know them. We sell a bunch of product through them, a ton of product through them. They would end up going to lunch together at the road rally. They would structure a deal for the next year, and I would lose the sponsor. And you can't really tell a sponsor, no, you're not allowed to do that, because you don't make friends that way. Yeah, Robin was on, thank you. Robin was on December 14th, so hasn't been quite long enough. I have to let her rest up between shows. um, wow, Raven MTX multi-touch control surface with slate control, $7,500? Are you kidding me? I thought, what did I just see? I thought I just saw a Raven. It was like $2,700. Am I crazy? Um, there are dates for the next road rally. I personally don't know what they are. I know that I signed a contract. I signed a contract like 2 years ago for 2021. I just don't know what the dates are. And Angel, who's our CFO, does know the dates, but unfortunately she is out of town on vacation right now. Spiritual would like to see Michael do a mixing session with some basic instruments like kick drum, snare, hi-hat, bass, and synth. The problem is the computer that I am doing this show from, and you get a key, like a license to put it on one computer. So I had to transfer the license from my last laptop to this laptop. And unfortunately, I've got Logic also on this laptop. And when I tried to set Logic up with Wirecast so that I could bring the audio in and do that very thing, I spent hours trying to make it work and couldn't figure it out. So at some point, just unplugged everything and replugged it back in the way it is. So for now, all I can really do are play mixes. But I would love that. I would thrill to sit here and go, okay, so hear this kick drum, hear how, or in the case of the Eagles Take It Easy tape that I've got, I would love to play you the stereo drums and show you how I can make them sound great. I could put a stereo compressor on them with a slow attack and a relatively fast release, and not hit it too hard, but hard enough that it's like reducing the gain by 3 dB maybe. And you'd go, wow, that sounds really good. And, I'm here in the room, but in a good way. It all sounds great. And then you add a bass guitar to it, this is exactly what I went through with the Eagles song. Then when I brought in the bass, all of a sudden the kick and the bass were so predominant. And the kick drum sounded great. The snare sounded pretty good. But then when I had the rest of the mix done, I didn't like the way the snare sounded. I knew that I could get a better snare sound. Unfortunately, when I did that, it totally messed with the kick and the bass relationship. Kind of a nightmare. What final mix compression do I use? Whatever sounds best on that song. There are no rules. And if you think there are rules, you're spending too much time on gear sluts. Just do whatever works on the song. But that's what I love about working in Logic now, is the fact that it comes with, 5 or 6 different compressors that are all relatively decent emulations of some famous compressors, all of which I think I've used, except for the red one, which I believe is, what's the red compressor? Andre will know the answer. Many of you guys will know the answer. Can't remember. Anyway, but it's got something that simulates a blue face 1176, a black face 1176, an LA2A, an LA3, Focusrite. Thank you. Yeah, the red one's supposed to emulate Focusrite. Actually, the first one, the blue face compressor that I believe is just the Logic standard compressor, I think that thing sounds great. Fairchild 670 on your master out. Yeah, Fairchild's a great... Shirelli's actually got a Fairchild sitting at home. Well, it's 5 o'clock. Adding weight to the snare lately. Reverb first. If that doesn't work, I'll boost about 200 hertz. Yeah, whatever works on that thing. I mean, there are things that will work over and over again on certain types of instruments. But, let's talk about a snare drum for a minute. Are you talking about a jazz snare? Are you talking about a singer-songwriter snare? Are you talking about a rock snare? Is it... like a brass-shelled snare? Is it a maple snare? Was the snare mic'd top and bottom? Where was the snare tuned? What's the tuning? What key is the song in? All that stuff. I mean, you don't have to sit down with a calculator and figure it all out, but after you've done enough mixes, you go, okay, this is a skinny little tuned up high snare. And the note of the snare is actually more important than hitting you in the chest for this song. So therefore, I don't even think about this stuff. I just intuitively kind of know how to dial it in from having done it a gazillion times. And it always seems to be pretty close, and then I fine tune it. But I can't say that there is an absolute prescription. Maybe other engineers work differently. Maybe I'm an oddball. I don't know. But I don't find that... having a stock answer for any of those things. What's needed when you hear it. And again, this goes back to what I was talking about at the top of the show today. What is your intent? What's the most important thing in the mix? What do you want this mix to do? If you're looking for the mix to drive emotion, then all of a sudden things like synth pads or string parts, or maybe a Rhodes part, or maybe a grand piano part, maybe those things are more important. If you're looking for it to rock out, then obviously the electric guitars, the kick and the snare mean a lot. You just don't know until you sit down. But the good thing to do, especially if you're mixing other people's material, is just shove the faders up in a straight line and hit play, and then just get a balance and go, okay, this is what I've got. What does this song need? Where do I want it to go? How do I want this mix to speak, in quotes, to listeners? And let that inform your entire approach. Don't make the snare try to sound perfect. Make it sound great in the context of that song and where you want that mix to go to enhance what that song is supposed to do. There's my deep thought for the day. Anyway, thank you guys. Thanks for hanging out. We will be right back here on Thursday. Please, if you've never subscribed to the channel, hit that red button and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. That's stereo thumbs up because we're talking audio today. And drop some comments in. Please, please, please. Even if you think of something later tonight or tomorrow, drop some comments in for show ideas. I would love to hear them. I've been doing this now for 10 months, and I feel like I'm running out of topics for the Quarantinis. So see you on Thursday, 4 o'clock, right back here. Thanks for hanging. Bye-bye. See how I hit that button? Yeah, that's how I hit those buttons. See you guys. Thanks. Bye.